serving men, women, and adolescent girls. There's over 230 centers across the United States and 1,400 centers worldwide. Today you'll be blown away by how God is miraculously at work in the ministry of Adult and Teen Challenge. We're going to share some testimonies. We're going to share some insight into what this program has to offer. So after today, you'll think of only one place to send those you know struggling with drugs or alcohol. I'd like to thank you again for having us. And at this time, I'd like to introduce you to the men of Adult and Teen Challenge Maine. Thank you. So again, my name is Phil. I walked into through the doors of Adult and Teen Challenge, Manchester, New Hampshire, in May of this year, one day short of my 40th birthday. I'm completely broken and defeated. I grew up in a small town in the Monadnock region in New Hampshire. I grew up in the same house my father grew up in. I grew up on the same 15 acres of land my father grew up on. My parents never divorced. They never beat me. They never abused me. There was no drugs in my house. There was no drinking in my house. There was nothing to suggest that I would turn out the way I did. You know, externally, I was a good kid. Inside, though, there was always something missing. I call it a hole in the soul. And I did whatever I could throughout my life to fill that hole. By the time I found alcohol in my late teens, I was more than ready for that drink, and I took off and ran with it. I remember the relief, I remember the comfort, and I went. I drank myself out of a beautiful home and family, drank myself out of numerous jobs and opportunities, drank myself into numerous run-ins with the law. I mean, health issues, you name it. I'm a constant relapser. I spent the past 10 years frequenting detoxes and treatment centers from Portland, Maine to Cape Cod, Massachusetts. On one of my recent bouts of sobriety, I met the love of my life, my fiancée Elizabeth. She was in recovery for crack and heroin, and I had never met anybody so grateful to be sober. And we had a beautiful time, beautiful couple of years, until the drinking came back, which it always does, and Elizabeth didn't like that. So I suggested that we smoke crack as something we can do together. For 3 days, that girl said no. For 3 days, I begged, I pleaded, and I prodded and manipulated until finally she caved and said yes, and we smoked crack. I found the second love of my life. It completely cured my alcoholism. I never thought of another drink again. It brought us closer together until it didn't. Eventually, we were lying to each other, cheating each other, and stealing from each other. Could put a complete divide between us. By the time I realized that the ride wasn't fun anymore, it was going too fast to get off. I lost my six-figure job as a foreman in the trades. It didn't matter because I wasn't bringing home a paycheck anymore anyways. 2 401ks, we smoked them. Every credit card was maxed out. And what was left of any value, including all of Elizabeth's jewelry, went straight to the pawn shop. When we were done with that, we were stealing from her mother and father. That's the monetary side of it. I stole a girl's sobriety. I stole my best friend's sobriety. I took the sobriety of a girl whose parents brought back to life 3 times with Narcan in the past. Her mother and father thought I was the best thing that ever happened to her. All my morals and values, gone. My convictions, everything I stood for, out the window. The lines I continuously drew in the sand of the things that I would never do, I was jumping over regularly. It was nothing personal. But crack called the shots. When crack said jump, I didn't say how high, I just jumped. My new drug of choice is my drug of no choice. One thing crack got me to do, though, was get on my knees and I prayed. Out of complete desperation, I prayed to a God I denounced, denied, and I did not even believe in. I didn't know how to pray. I don't remember the prayer. I couldn't tell you what I said. I do remember the peace that came over me, and for the first time in 6 months, I could cry. And soon after that, we were both in programs. I was blessed to go to Adult and Teen Challenge. There I had some other men in the program who could love me a little bit until I could start to love myself again. I had a completely selfless staff who believed in me until I could believe in myself a little bit again. They saw things in me that I didn't see. I did a lot of praying. I did a lot of surrendering. I did a lot of begging God for forgiveness. As much as I wanted to be sober, I just didn't want to hurt anybody anymore. I did not want to let anybody down. But again, I remember the peace that came over me. And I kept getting that peace. And I was off. Today I'm up here in Maine. I was asked to come out and help out these guys. They got some changes going on. They got a big house to move into. They got beds to fill. And I was asked to come up here to be a power of example to men coming into this program. I don't know if you guys are paying attention to me, but 3 months ago I was stealing from the people I love the most. Last night I was counting money from board sales. They trust me because my integrity means more to me than any dollar in that box today. This past Monday, my fiance went into the Adult and Teen Challenge Southern New England Women's Center in Taunton, Massachusetts. And when I asked her why, she said, because when my mother read me the letters that you wrote her, I knew that you changed. She didn't even recognize me on the phone. She wanted that change for herself. God has a plan. My life has a purpose today. There's hope in that. I don't have to know every step of the way. There's freedom in that. That's faith. I have gratitude in my heart. I went 40 years without an ounce of gratitude. Trapped in self. That's joy. That hole in my soul continuously is being filled. The thing that was missing was God. It was Jesus Christ. The verse I stand on, guys, is John 12 and 13. But to those who did receive him, who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. Thank you, guys.
Good morning. My name is Scott, and I'm a graduate of Adult and Teen Challenge, and each time I hear that, it's probably about a dozen times now, I am blown away. And I think my brother knows, like I do, that the only way that it works is that submission and obedience to God. That's how the whole thing works. Not to man, but to God. And there's 4 key elements to the program that make it work, 4 key care elements. That's physical care, mental care, emotional care, and spiritual care. From the start, when you come through the door, you're going to receive physical care. And that's a warm, Tempur-Pedic bed to sleep in. There's a lot of guys that are coming off the street or coming from couch surfing. Who knows where they're coming from? I still have a brother who likes to sleep on the lawn occasionally. But he has a warm bed. We also have a recreation area outside. We've moved the weights outside to get you a little closer to God. And a quarter-scale Olympic-sized track that most everyone knows affectionately as the round turn driveway. But we're going to give you 3 meals a day, get you back in a system of learning how to take care of yourself. We're going to provide transportation as well to doctor's appointments, to dentist appointments, to probation, to court hearings, home. We're going to provide transportation as well to churches like this, or if the case may arise, to emergency rooms. And in learning self-responsibility and personal care and life skills again, you're going to receive mentoring from men who've been through the program. All the staff members in Maine and New Hampshire have been through the program, each and every one of them, from the director down through to apprentices. They've been through the program. They understand what the ins and outs every day are like, what the challenges are. And they're going to provide some insight into that and help you with that as well. And the apprenticeship that I just mentioned, that's when you move through the program and you graduate. You decide to stay on to give back, or you decide to stay on because you're just not quite ready to go into society yet. And that's going to teach you time management. So it's going to teach a graduate how to integrate back into society easily, flawlessly. It's not going to be easy. When you spend anywhere from 12 months to a year and a half isolated on top of a hill in a holy place and then be subjected to being back in man again, it takes a minute, but then you fall back on God. That's what we're teaching, is that reliance. You're also going to receive life coaching from a professional life coach. It's going to help you build a checkbook and learn how to balance it. It's going to help you build financial skills and basic life skills. You're going to receive clinical counseling as well from a LIDAC, a licensed Christian counselor. Right now we're working on getting a new one in Maine, but we're working with New Hampshire to use theirs as well. via Zoom meetings. Vocational training that we offer in Maine and at the other centers in New England. As you see when you walk through the door is the carpentry shop. Those are the cutting boards, the rolling pins, and so forth out there. Please check them out after the service. They're well worth it. There's a lot of time and effort that goes into them. Within the house, we're teaching culinary skills as well. All the residents prepare all meals. They do all the work around the house, including cutting the wood and taking care of the day-to-day needs of the house, not just us, but the house. You're also going to learn some business development skills, sales, going out each day or several times during the week, setting up a table throughout the state and selling our cutting boards and raising awareness, telling people truly what is going on out there and the people we're losing each and every day. And public relations, which this is an aspect of it, getting up in front of people. I know a lot of guys can't do it. It came a little more naturally to me, but most people can't. They don't want to stand in front of people and expose themselves like that, but that's part of what we're trying to do, and that's the reliance on God as well. Within the academic aspect, you're learning just daily studies about the Bible. And each custom-tailored contract is going to be for an individual. So it's going to help you build skills that you might be lacking in. If you're struggling with something, for instance, a particular temptation, that's what your contract is going to be built around. And you're going to receive one of those each month as you move through the program. There's also group studies that we do where you'll sit down and go over a packet and study within each other in a large group and do discussions with a leader. And then probably the most important key element of care is the spiritual care. Each year, we'll go to 3 or 4 different spiritual enrichment events. One is Camp Champ. It's a large camp in New York where all the centers in New England and New Jersey will gather. Coming up next month, we'll be going to our headquarters in Brockton and doing a spiritual emphasis for 3 or 4 days where all the centers will gather and do worship. They'll hear the word from many different people as well. And then, of course, there's this, chapel services and church services. This is our part of our outreach right here. It's coming out and talking about the program, talking about what God's doing in our life each and every day, each and every moment. I know I wouldn't be standing here right now if I had relied on myself continually. 21 months ago, I would not have made it. I definitely would be dead. And then probably the bigger part, too, of the entire outreach that we do, and also the restoration, is family visits, Sunday afternoon. My brother Rich has got family visit coming today. He's going to have his brother there, his parents, his kids. It's going to be big. He hasn't seen his children in 5 weeks. It's about 5 weeks, and that's what we do. It's that restoration for families. Because it's our mission to bring life-changing hope to addicts and their families. That's what it's about. It's bringing people to God, and through that, that's how we get that. And then there's the accountability factor. There's 24-hour supervision on the campus. So there's either a staff member or an apprentice present all the time on campus, be it during the day, during the night, doesn't matter. There's always someone there to hold us accountable. And there's always an accountability system. I think that's what probably drives us to get through this too, is that you're watching your brother go through it as well as you are. We all have differences. We all have different needs and wants, but ultimately, when we all lean on each other, we're leaning on God too, because he put us there for the right place at the right time. And as I'd mentioned, it was a little less than 22 months ago I walked through the doors of Adult and Teen Challenge. I was broken physically. I was broken mentally, and I was broken spiritually, most of all. And I grew up in the church. And from a young age, I attended Sunday school. I was at service every Sunday. I was involved. I loved it. I was on fire for the Lord. And then I was about 12 or 13 years old. I was offered the opportunity to continue in faith or to walk away. And I chose the pleasures and treasures of man, ironically enough, to bring me back 30 years later full circle in this ministry. But I moved to Bar Harbor when I was a teenager, just after graduation, and lived the Bar Harbor life. I worked hard in the restaurant business and played even harder. I succumbed to every temptation that I possibly could. It didn't matter what it was, whether it was drugs or alcohol, sins of lust, it didn't matter. And then I met someone, and we were together for 17 wonderful years. Difficult years at times because she had a health condition that required a lot of medication, which led me to my first experience with an overdose. And that was her 3 feet away from me on a couch one night. As we had company, I dozed off. I'd worked a long day, only to be awakened by my friends saying, "Barb's not breathing." Everything stopped that night. I did everything I could to try to save her life. done it many times before with others. Couldn't. It was too late. I went into a tailspin and reverted back to where I was previous years, and anything that I could put into me to make it not hurt, I did. For the better part of 6 weeks, that's what I did. And I had people coming to me saying, you can't do this. This isn't you. You have more to offer. So I picked myself back up through help and through the Lord, actually. And the whole time that I walked away from God and wasn't walking his path, he was always in my life, always putting things in front of me, saving my life in instances. And I went for about a year and a half, 2 years, doing it right, working. I met someone, we got together and we're married. She had 2 young children when we got together. And it was great. But I still wasn't following the Lord, nor were we. And old habits creep back in, and I allowed them. And I destroyed something beautiful again. To the point where it landed me in a parking lot in Ellsworth, Maine, having seizures due to alcohol withdrawals because I thought I could do it on my own. I thought I could get everything back on my own. Well, it didn't work that way. The day I came out of the hospital, I was at Adult and Teen Challenge, walking through the doors, not knowing exactly what to expect, but going into prayer that first afternoon and thinking I was at a full school revival. It was quite an experience to see grown men weeping and crying, praising the Lord, praying over each other, and then having a gentleman come up to me and say, "Brother, I love you." You don't even know me, let alone love me, but we'll go with that. So he prayed over me, and we ended up graduating together. He's moved on to a different ministry, but it was an experience that I won't forget because it reminded me of being a kid again and being in church and that care that people have. And that's what drives us there, is that love. It isn't always easy to give. It isn't always easy to receive. But when you do, and when you open up and you allow that, it's amazing. It's amazing the beauty that comes from it. And I do stand on one verse, and that's Philippians chapter 3, verse 13. Brothers and sisters, I do not count myself to have apprehended. But one thing I do know is forgetting that which is behind and reaching for that which is ahead. Thank you.
As you were arriving this morning, we were handing out these prayer cards. If for some reason you did not get one or you need a pen to fill it out with, raise your hand and we'll get one right over to you. The spot on your left is just your basic information. We're going to stay in touch with you, keep you up to date on current events in the program, and maybe share a testimony of one of the guys in the program. The spot on the right is a spot for your prayer request. Everyone here is an answered prayer from Teen Challenge. Just 7 weeks ago, I had one foot in my grave. And I cried out to God, and 3 days later, I landed at Teen Challenge. So here I am. We believe at Teen Challenge that prayer is our most powerful weapon. That's why we have intercessory prayer at least twice a day. We pray with each other, and we also pray over these cards. If you can't think of anything to write down, you can write down a prayer for one of us. Yeah, one of us. So I'll give you just a couple minutes to fill it out, and we'll be around to collect them. Thank you so much. Have a blessed rest of your day.
As you've heard through our presentation, the drug epidemic is increasing drastically in our country. Shows no signs of slowing down. In 2022 alone, there were over 110,000 overdose deaths. Last year, the state of Maine received $65 million to fight this. Yet, all the state-funded programs, there's about an 8 to 10% success rate. So 2 people out of 10 going into this. Where we're a nonprofit and Christ-centered, we don't receive any of this funding. And despite this, we're determined not to turn anyone away due to lack of finances. We are a debt-free ministry, however, and we're expanding each and every day. I'd like to point that fact out just to show that we're good stewards of the Lord's money. We're not a church ourselves, but we do come alongside a church to provide a specific, a specific mission the church often isn't equipped to do. The most common question that we hear each and every service that we do is, how can we help? Well, this is how you can help, folks. It's to get involved. We always need prayer warriors outside of the system, or outside of the program, and that's you guys. The other way that you can support us is through our products that we have out front, the cutting boards and so forth, the rolling pins. And they make great gifts, by the way. Grab a couple on your way out. But the biggest impact you can make is $1 a day sponsorship. You can sponsor 1 resident for $30. You can sponsor 2 residents for $60, or as many as you'd like. We're hoping to get 5 sponsors today. If you're interested in doing that, just stop by and see us at the table out back when we're finished, and we can set you right up with that. And thank you again, and God bless.
We want to do a couple of things. First of all, we can't tell Pastor Brad we get out before 12:30. Can we all do that? We won't tell him we get out before 12:30 today. But we have time to do a few things. I hope everyone visits the table out back to look at the things that they have. We're gonna have prayer over them. I'm gonna ask for the board to come up in just a few minutes, and the board's wives, and anyone else who wants to, and we're just going to pray over these guys. Sound like a good idea? God is doing good things, and God will use the church. God will use Teen Challenge. He'll use anyone he wants to use. But there's some powerful testimonies. People that just recently were spared from death, from all kinds of things, and fairly recently, and they shared their testimonies today, so we want to pray for them. Would that be all right? Anyone who wants, if I could have